So I'm not going to like break this up real hard or anything, but I do want to kind of get back to Star Trek and kind of some of the stuff we're talking about here.
Sure.
And I wanted to talk specifically about things that happen when you make prequels. And I noticed there's a lot of call forwards and callbacks and constantly going to references. And this kind of takes me out of the story. How does it affect you?
I love the nostalgia.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if it's done tastefully, if it's done right, I'm here for it. I mean, you know, because as fans, we want, well, especially when you're dealing with prequels. I mean, come on. I mean, you almost can't do a prequel without having certain callbacks, certain levels of nostalgia in terms of mentions or legacy character coming into the fray who, you know, would probably be a new casting because, you know, that original character is either too old or they've passed away. Or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm here for it. I like it. I listen. No one does it better to me than Lower Decks. They're the kings of nostalgia. But like when you think of like Strange New Worlds, it's aboard the Enterprise. We all know what we know in terms of what the Enterprise is about, in terms of how it looks. Certain things that are very familiar to us in terms of looks, like the patterns of the bridge, you know, like the way the bridge is, the pattern, the way the controls are, you know what I mean? Different things like that. I'm here for it in all those ways. I think it's cool because it gives us something to talk about along with the episode of the week. It's like, you know, Easter eggs are all the rage now. You know?
Yeah.
And like nobody does Easter eggs better than like, say, Marvel, who, if you're watching a Captain America movie and all of a sudden there's a reference to what happened in Doctor Strange, you know, you've just got a great connection. Or, you know, like what they're doing with She-Hulk, how they're referencing the Incredible Hulk, which at the time wasn't even Marvel. Well, I mean, it's always Marvel, but, you know, MCU.
Yeah, it was Universal or somebody at the time.
Yeah, Universal. So, but they were referencing stuff that happened. And, of course, you know, Abomination is now is in the show. And so it's cool when that happens. And in Star Trek, I love when they reference certain things that we've known of for like 50 years, you know, especially when you're dealing with like Strange New Worlds.
Yeah. Well, so what did you think of the basically the remake of Balance of Terror?
I thought it was pretty genius, to be honest.
I loved every second of it.
Yeah, it was a what if situation. It took one of the most famous episodes of the series and basically made it a what if. A what if, like in Marvel, like a what if. What if this went down like this because Pike, you know, was able to avoid his fate. I thought it was amazing. Only thing I didn't like was the tweaking that they did on the movie jackets.
So I've heard a couple people bring that up as like not being fans of. Was it the shiny sleeves or the sloped off border on the top of the jacket?
It was the shiny sleeve to me. It was, you know, it's just that top part that they decided to make shiny as opposed to. I just wanted them to keep it
identical.
Yeah. Look, you know, we've been getting tweaks on uniforms for the longest. Okay, fine. It's not. They haven't destroyed Star Trek, as some people like to say, you know, when something is different. Just personally, I was not a fan of seeing it that way. Yeah. I loved seeing it. I loved seeing those uniforms there. Just like I love when they showed it, like, during Next Gen. You know how every now and then you see the movie uniforms in Next Gen, like when Picard was younger and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I was here for it. But the episode as a whole, man, come on. They did it.
They knocked it out of the park as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I could see some issues with the Wrath of Khan costume, but at the same time, we're talking about an alternate future where Pike lived and Kirk, you know, who knows what happened to Kirk.
But that's a great point.
Yeah.
Who's to say that in that alternate future, that's what the uniforms look like?
Yeah, exactly. Right. You know what I did notice, and I brought this up once with Chris, but since you're one of those guys who digs into these thoughts like I do. So you notice Spock in the alternate future dies very much the way Spock died in the Wrath of Khan. Okay? Radiation exposure, just torn to shreds. Yeah. So the first time where he would have died doesn't happen because Kirk is there to do Balance of Terror the way Kirk would have done it instead of the way Pike would have done it.
Yeah.
The second time, Spock actually dies, but Kirk is there to go steal the Enterprise and go back and get him.
Right.
So that was Spock's fate no matter what, but where Kirk was involved, there's a way out. Where Kirk's not involved, there's not.
Right.
And I thought that was kind of a genius little twist on the story.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Spock died the way he did in Wrath of Khan. You're the first person that I've talked to, or even anybody who's even posted anything, who's given that mention in terms of how Spock died in Wrath of Khan. But yeah, that's true. It made sense. I mean, I think that they really touched on a lot of what ifs that it was very needs of the many outweighed the needs of the few. Think about it.
Oh yeah, and then like when Hemmer died, you got a total flash forward to Spock and his attitude in the Wrath of Khan.
Oh yeah. And nobody saw Hemmer dying.
No, that came out of nowhere.
Nobody saw that coming, although a lot of people are saying it's possible he will come back.
They're saying the actor will be back. Now, I don't know if that means the actor will be back as Hemmer. I just don't know.
Well, there were a few, theories on how Hemmer could have potentially survived. He could have been beamed out as he was falling. The snow could have preserved him, which means that they would have frozen the eggs that are in, there's a lot of, and I look at it and I'm like, you know what? There are those possibilities. This is Star Trek. It could be, he could potentially come back in one of those incarnations. But I also like the fact that if maybe he should just stay dead, There's something to be said for that as well. Yeah. Who in Star Trek actually died instead? I mean, a bunch of people did, but Spock came back to life.
Well, I was just going to say Tasha, but there's even an exception to that.
Right, and they're even hinting that Tasha will return in 3.
Yeah,
but they don't know how.
Let's see here. Who dies and stays dead?
Big character.
Well, we never see McCoy die on screen, so you can't use him. You can't use most of the regular crew because you don't see them die.
And you don't know what really happened to them.
Yeah. So they're out.
As far as we know, they all died natural causes. Well, Kirk. Kirk died.
Yeah, but then he wrote his own book 4 years later where he was reawakened as a zombie Kirk thing. Yeah.
Half board.
Let's see here. Trip in Enterprise.
Trip. There you go.
Only because they killed him in the very last episode.
Right. And they've never revisited Enterprise since. But, in the books, he didn't die and he joined Section 31.
Oh. Ugh.
Yeah, but again, that's the books. Okay. The books don't count unless they decide to.
So we got Kirk and Trip.
Kirk, Trip, Tasha for the most part, even though she came.
Yeah, because that was time travel shenanigans. That wasn't
right.
Yeah,
right.
She didn't come back to life. They just ended up in a place where she hadn't died.
Oh, you know who died?
Who's that?
And even though it was brilliant how they continued him, the original Harry Kim died. The Harry Kim that took off with Voyager and got stuck in the Alpha Quadrant died. He was sucked out of that airlock, or not the airlock, but when the hull was breached, he was sucked out. But if you remember, they had an alternate Voyager that was going through the same stuff, and then there was a rift. And remember, the Naomi Wildman also died when Harry Kim died, and so that Janeway was able to tell the other Janeway, yeah, we lost Harry Kim and Samantha Wildman lost her daughter. And so when the other Voyager decided to sacrifice themselves, I think it was the Hirogen that was trying to take them over, they were like, Harry, take the baby and go on the other side.
Okay.
And so he did, which, completed the set. And so that Harry Kim, that Naomi Wildman, though they are basically complete equals of not even clones, but just, different universe, but all the same stuff went down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Minus that one little hiccup. So that's one.
Wow. You know what that reminds me of? Land of the Lost. There was an episode of Land of the Lost where they duped their others, like another parallel version of themselves, to come in and so they could get out. So the original family that got stuck in there actually escapes, but they did it by trapping another version of themselves.
I do remember that.
Yeah, David Gerald's a much better writer than he gets credit for a lot of times.
Did David Gerald write Land of the Lost?
I'm pretty sure he created that show or wrote for it, yeah.
Wait a minute, so is that how the show ended? Because I remember...
No, I think that was just like a middle show. I think that was just like a one that they had just put in there. Because remember, like when we were young, the shows didn't end. You just put them in syndication and they kept playing.
That's true. There was never really a resolve in any of the shows. Oh, that's interesting. So wait, but that was just an episode. And the next episode was like, and this week on Land of the Lost, but it was like a whole different family. But even though it was the same family. Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
The illusion of change more than just change.
Yeah, I got to go back and start watching Land of the Lost again. Oh, man.
That was kind of wild.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? I mean, in general, I mean, do you think that, because you say you think it's too much or you don't really like a lot of the character?
Well, so one of the problems with doing a prequel is we already know what's going to happen 100 years in the future.
Sure.
But the people who are in there don't. And there doesn't necessarily need to be a whole lot of hints. Unless, like you're saying, you want to run up the Easter egg counter, then fine, do it. But me, I get pulled out of stuff a lot when I see too many things,
I live for it, man.
Yeah, but that being said, so far, almost everything they've done in Strange New Worlds, they get right up to the line. Where I'm like, oh, if they go any further with that, I don't know how I'm going to feel. And then they stop right there,
Well, for me, they get me enough to the point where I feel like, because we all know Spock. Whatever happens, Spock is going to survive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right. But they get me enough to the point where I'm so invested in the episode. Like my mind doesn't go there in terms of, man, he's going to be fine, even though he's literally about to get blasted out of the sky. Yeah, he's going to be fine. But my mind is just like, oh no, oh Spock, oh shit, okay, cool. Enterprise just saved him. You know what I mean?
Oh
they beamed him out right in time or whatever. So I'm there for the story, man. And even though we all know what's going to happen, hey, I'm still there for the suspense. I'm still there for all the things that you're supposed to be affected by. But where I do get a little like, ooh, what's going to happen is like, we don't know what happens to La'an. We don't know what happens to, we don't know what happens to Ortega's. You know what I mean? We don't even really know what happens to number one.
No, number one could stay in the pen from here on out. We wouldn't have known that,
Right, exactly. We don't know what happened. So there's, that to me is where they killed off Hemmer. So unless they're going Game of Thrones, who knows who could be next and when?
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, they went a little Game of Thrones in Picard when they killed like Hugh and Egypt. Nobody expected that. Nobody saw that coming. And all of a sudden, because you're dealing with legacy characters.
Right.
And in legacy characters, for the most part, they live forever. World was shocked when Tasha got killed.
Yes.
Huh? People were like, what? How?
That is actually what hooked me on Next Generation. I kind of didn't care for it very much. And then I was like, wait a minute, they killed their security chief. Anything can happen on this show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They went to a place where normally you would not go on these shows. And then they killed Dax, Jetsia.
Yeah. Oh, and that was a really chicken shit move too on the production side.
Yeah. They caught hell for that.
Yeah.
I mean, with respect to Nicole DeBoyer, man, they really dropped the ball, man. I don't know. I think it was a contract thing or whatever. Man, they should have just given her the.
I think it was the last season and she wanted to do half as many dates, I think is what it was. And they're like, no, you either do them all or you do none.
I mean, you never know what's going on in those production offices.
Oh, no, absolutely not. But there could have been a million stories underneath it too,
Yeah, but you know what I thought was really just horrible, man? When it was, it's like the last episode, when they were doing all the montages of each character.
Yeah.
And they're showing like, hey, yeah, basically the best of. And so they get to Esri, and of course, they only have the season to show. I mean, she has a lot of stuff to showcase, but like There was no mention of Ezri. Anything with Worf, it was always either Worf and somebody else, but it was never Worf and Jadzia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like some of Worf's best stuff was Jadzia.
Yeah.
You know?
There's like, you're dead to me.
Yeah, it's like you are literally just Jadzia does not exist. I was like, y'all should have just coughed up the 30,000 or whatever she was getting per episode. Give her the last episode credit. Come on, you guys.
Yeah. Did you watch Babylon 5?
I really didn't.
Okay. So there was something kind of like that. The show was canceled, so they actually scrapped all of season 5 and put it in season 4 so they could wrap the story. And then Warner Brothers bought the show.
Right.
So he ended up having to do stuff like they had the show ender, which they filmed because they had ended the show. Well, now they needed to put that off till the end of season 5. But one of the people who was in that episode didn't sign up to do season 5. So he had to come up with money to pay her for that episode to put her in the and he had to jump through some hoops to get that last thing to work, you know.
Yeah. I don't know why. I just never got into Babylon 5.
You know, it's funny. It's Babylon 5 is the reason I never got into Deep Space Nine.
Well, they were so similar too.
Yeah,
it's like it was almost like you had to choose.
Yeah, heavy story arcs, darker stories. They were very similar to each other. You know.
Yeah, but I was too loyal to Star Trek to want to jump ship, or I wanted to enjoy both. I really tried. I don't know. For some reason, I just. It's on HBO Max and I have it. I might go ahead and start watching it.
Yep. Just keep in mind when you do that, season 1 is pretty lightweight. There's a handful of good episodes. There's 1 or 2 great episodes, but there's some of it that's just
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.